Okay, so the cylinder head is now off, and as you can see, there was a leaking head gasket because you got water in the number 2 and number 4, or number 2 and number 3 cylinders. The reason that they have water in them and the other 2 do not is because they're at bottom dead center, where number 1 right here and number 4 right there are at top dead center. This white flaking around the edges of the cylinder is stop leak chemical that someone had put in the engine in an attempt to fix the head gasket cheap, so that's got to be cleaned. And so that's what it looks like inside the engine. When you take your camshaft, your timing chain off, you have to make sure that the number 1 cylinder right here is at top dead center. And to do that, you have to line up the 2 arrows that you see on the top of the crankshaft gear. You see that 1 arrow on the actual, just right above the gear, and then 1 on the engine. Those have to be lined up perfect, especially when you're, resetting it. But it's best to line the marks up while you still have the engine all together, and you're looking at the camshafts on top and lining them up. And you can turn the entire engine by turning on this pulley right here with a 19mm wrench while the serpentine belt is still on, and get them perfectly aligned. The crankshaft pulley does not come off very easily. There are other YouTube videos on how to get the crankshaft pulley off. Over here is the cylinder head, which I have sitting on its side. The cylinder head came off with the gasket on it. I was actually expecting the head gasket to be on the engines, or to stick to the engine side, and it didn't. Once again, this white stuff right here is stop leak chemical. And when it does come out, there is a dowel rod right here, as you can see, and one right here, and that one doesn't want to come off very easily. But when you set that back, probably best to take the dowel rod and put it in the engine block side for proper alignment. And when you set the cylinder head back on, after you've done the gasket and used the gasket sealant, which I have Victor Rain's gasket sealant that I'm going to use, make sure that you set it on there properly the first time and hit these dowel rods, because if you kind of twist it to get it to set right, you can mess up the gasket again. Anyway, you should also replace the exhaust seals and the seal on the right side of the cylinder block, and the intake gaskets as well. And then this is the timing chain side, which right here you have Honda Bond, or leftover Honda Bond, which I'm going to be replacing all of the Honda Bond once I get around to putting the timing chain cover back on. And with the bolts, it's usually best to keep them in order as you're taking them out. Some are the 2 ones at the bottom are longer than the rest of them, so you'll also need to take out 3 bolts on the oil pan on the timing chain side. This hole right here is your timing chain tensioner inspection plate, but you have to take the whole thing off to get the timing chain out, obviously. Like I said, other videos on how to get the crankshaft pulley off. Here is the gasket set that I got from Victor Rain's. and I'm going to be replacing all the gaskets that I was just mentioning. And right here is the big one, the head gasket. So the whole set cost about 150 bucks. Victor Reigns is probably the better gasket to buy. Like I had said before, taking out the you got to get the timing chain plate cover off. That's very time consuming. The exhaust side is the easiest. That'll probably take you an hour or two. Intake, I kind of cheated and I just took out about 7 bolts right here, and I left the rest of the assembly together. And then the right side of the engine where the main coolant line is, there's 1, 2, let me give it some light here, 4 bolts there. Well, actually 2 of them are nuts and 2 of them are bolts on top and bottom. And I had to unplug the camshaft sensors right here, as well as one other sensor, which is on the spark plug cylinder tubes. There are other videos on how to get everything else off, the simple stuff, but there isn't a video on a 2005 Honda Accord head gasket replacement. So I'll take another video and post some more information as I'm going.